The Federal High Court in Lagos has granted leave to the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project SERAP to seek an order of mandamus directing the government to publish details of spending of the 388 billion naira Paris Club loan funds. The funds were allegedly diverted and mismanaged by 35 states. Justice Muslim Hassan, in a short ruling, held that SERAP can proceed with legal challenge to unravel how exactly 35 states spent the refunds. The order by Justice Hassan has now cleared the way for SERAP to bring a case against the federal government and state governors. Let's now get more perspective from Executive Director SERAP, Tokunbo Mumuni, to talk more on the court permission. Many thanks for joining us. Now, even with the Freedom of Information Act, you needed this court to grant you permission to look into this. What does that say about freedom of information in Nigeria?
Let me
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Let me just say the rules of the Federal High Court that we have applied to says that before you can file a case by way of an application for mandamus before a court of competent jurisdiction like the Federal High Court, you first of all have to ask for the leave of the court by an ex parte application before the application on notice can proceed. So what we have simply done by applying for leave is to comply with the rules of the Honorable Court so that the motion on notice will be served on the party on the other side and will be before the court to agree the substantive application. That's what we have simply done. So in spite of the Freedom of Information Act. Don't forget that we had written to the government earlier, to the Accountant General of the Federation, to take action, give this information to the Attorney General of the Federation so that he can proceed against any of the state governments that collected this Paris Club refund, and we can't see anything to show for it on ground. For example, a lot of the states, in spite of the amount that they've received, can still not pay salaries of workers. And the minimum that any of the states that collected is about 10 billion naira. So how would a minimum of 10 billion naira enter into the coffers of the states? And such states, most of them,
there. If you can hear me, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, now let's talk about what do you expect to come out of this. I mean, this is not the first time governors are receiving funds and we hear nothing, absolutely nothing about the funds released. What are your expectations from the steps you've taken so far?
You see, what we expect is that how the money went must be explained. You understand? It is not, in a democracy, there can be no opaqueness in government business. Especially when it comes to public money received by the governor for the benefit of the people of the state of Nigeria. Nobody can just pocket 10 billion naira. And in spite of that, people still complain of lack of receipt of salary. So how can that be justified that you collect 10 billion naira and you are still not paying salary? They tell us what you use the money in doing. So by the time you give us explanation as to what the money was used for, then if Nigerians are satisfied, it's okay. But we have to continue to ask questions until the appropriate response and answers are given to pointed questions. That is what democracy is about. In a democracy, you cannot pretend that you are still operating in a cocoon in your private parlor. Once in a democracy, you have to be open and transparent.
Now, for many Nigerians, it's really quite surprising that this is happening again. I think the second time in this administration where monies are given out and they're not accounted for. Does it have to always come to agencies like yourself, NGOs, asking the governors to be accountable? What is the role of the government in ensuring that the funds they give out are used for what they are meant to be used for?
You see,
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes. You see, the point we are making is that we are taught that the past 2 years must be the end of no openness, no accountability, no transparency. We don't expect this under a Buhari-led administration. We don't expect that things will continue to be as it used to be the past 2 years, 15 years earlier. Now that we say there must be change, the change has to reflect in all our national lives. We don't expect that in a Buhari-led administration, money will still get to the state and won't be able to address what they are used for, and nobody will ask questions. You see, the only thing that it takes for evil to proliferate is for people of goodwill not to ask questions, not to say anything. We in SERAP, we are calling on Nigeria citizens. We are trying to lead the way to encourage the people of Nigeria to ask questions. The money belongs to Nigerian people, and they must ask questions as to what the money has been done with, so that everything will be clear. We will know that Nigerian citizens are not being shortchanged. Because when you receive a minimum of 10 billion naira across 35 states of the federation each, then you cannot be complaining about payment of food salaries. That would be unfair to Nigerian people.
Many have said that actually restructuring Nigeria, let's bring the question of restructuring into this, might be the solution to this issue where governors bounce to Abuja to collect money and nothing is done about it, that then citizens might be closer to the government to ask questions. Do you share the same view? I think we've lost Tokunbo Mumuni there. Go ahead.
Let me tell you that the Constitution, in the section concerning fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy, have said the state shall abolish corruption, abuse of power. So when the federal government asks questions as to what the governors do with this one that has been collected, it is not an attempt to interfere with the activities of the state. It is in keeping with the policy as stated in the Nigerian Constitution that says the government must abolish corruption and abuse of power. Now, if it is for us to ask the federal government to ask the appropriate questions, because we have 3 levels of government: the federation, the state, and local government. And once it is about corruption or anti-corruption, the federal government as the coordinating body of all levels of government in Nigeria must ensure that it is not only talking about corruption, it's not only fighting corruption. It must also ensure that things that happen in the state and local government are all geared towards fighting corruption, transparency, and accountability.
Absolutely, Tokunbo Mumuni, we appreciate your perspective. We'll have you back to talk more on this. Thank you so much for your time.